Steve Moran here, and as those of you guys know, who are regular viewers, consumer content, we are adding a number of content creators. And Murry Mercier, did I do that right?
You did. You did. You're one of the few. You're one of the few.
It has a brand new show that we're launching today called Murry Off the Mic. And I am so excited to have you do that. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to actually, this is your show. So why don't you talk to me a little bit about your vision for what you're going to be talking about?
Well, yeah, big question and so exciting. First off, thank you so much to ProCare HR and Foresight for even thinking of me to do this. It's a wonderful honor. And, the thing that most excited me about this opportunity was just to have a platform to be able to speak with all of these folks that I've met through the years. We just talked about that, but bringing them into an environment where we could have a real conversation, hence off the mic, right? It's like all the other talking that we do, it's usually sponsored by something, and there's something behind it that's driving you, a product to sell, or you have a specific message you're trying to get across. So what I'm most excited about this opportunity is to bring my colleagues in the industry that are working so hard to make senior living such a wonderful place to live and to work and to integrate with and to have interactions with, but giving us a platform where we can just have a candid conversation, where it doesn't have to be about a product or a service or the new thing we're doing or what have you, and just to talk about that and reach our message out there to the folks around us.
So I love that so much. I was at a conference yesterday that consisted mostly of panels, and I typically go to conferences like that mostly because it's the liminal space in between the presentations where I get a chance to visit with leaders. But there was one panel, actually there were two panels, where the panelists got a little feisty with each other.
Sure.
And it was so refreshing because they were talking about really, really important issues, and not everybody agrees with stuff. And too often, I think we kind of make nice, and we should be able to have friendly, passionate disagreements, because I think that's how we actually get to a better place.
Wonderfully said. I mean, I love doing the Not Late Sliff show. I love speaking at Argentum and Leading Age and Asha and Around the Horn. But at the end of the day, like a contrast, no stage, no prep, no performance, unfiltered, unintentional. What's on our mind? What's our stories? Is as well as I do, at the end of the day, this industry is about stories and people and the human aspect.
Absolutely right. So as you sort of step back and look at the industry, what are the things that, well, let's actually start. This is two separate questions. What are the things that really excite you?
The number one thing that excites me is that senior living is being given the credit that, we really are protecting the frontline wellness of the residents and the people within, not just the residents. I want to include the entire community of senior living in this conversation. Before the medical event ever happens, before the post-acute long-term hospital process even kicks in, we're here trying to not only stop that from ever happening, but to create this degree of sustainability. I think the one thing that I figured out really early on in senior living was like, there's no end goal here. We are only as good as we are coming together to deal with what we have to deal with today. And so the fact that senior living is getting credit for being in that position, and the hospitals and the payers and the healthcare agents, they're all waking up to realize that we're valuable to them. And also we're better telling our story to the public. And we're not just that house, that building on the corner with a fence around it. People are getting more involved and want to get more involved. And even television and Hollywood's getting involved. I was just watching The Pit last night, and they had some residents coming in every morning from the assisted living, or Landman has scenes where they're going into these assisted livings and it's a downright party. And I love we're getting this type of PR attention.
Okay, I got to ask you, since you mentioned Landman, I'm kind of late. I'm late to the series, but just a couple of weeks ago, my wife and I started watching it. We're just barely started season 2. And I talked to a number of people about the portrayal of senior living in Landman, and some people hate it. And actually, most of the people I talk to hate it.
Really?
And I look at it and I think it makes senior living look really fun.
Yeah, I thought it was wonderful. I mean, if anything, it put a spotlight on, the physical plant doesn't need to define the culture within. And I could see how a risk averse operator might be like, oh no, they went to the adult club, right? Or oh no, they're drinking alcohol. But the reality is these people are choosing to live life the way that they want to live it, even in their situation of calling senior living home.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to believe that is non-senior living people watch that there are a lot more people who are going, well, man, that's what senior living is like. I could live there where they might not have otherwise. So I think it's very positive, even though I recognize for some people, there might be some perhaps moral issues. Right?
Yeah, well, yeah, those live your life, right? You've been around it. I mean, what's your experience going into senior living communities compared to what we're seeing on Landman?
Oh, I think that so it's interesting. I toured a building under construction earlier today, and I'm in a magnificent building, the Concord Tree one that I just toured here. And I'm looking at these two properties, and I'm thinking, either one of those things I could live in. They are beautiful. The residents are alive and vibrant, and while I'm not ready to move in to senior living, I do think that at some point, when I maybe get into my early mid 80s, that the community and the support, the services would give me a better life.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to me, it just shows you that culture is the differentiator. It's not the building, the amenity, the tech. At the end of the day, it's the culture. And those residents in Landman, man, they're getting quite a culture started over there.
They certainly are. So the other thing you talked about briefly, and I'd like to dig into maybe a little bit deeper, is storytelling. Yes. I used to believe that making senior living more popular, the key to that was to go out and interview residents who love senior living and get them to tell their stories. I have done a few of those interviews, and I'll be honest about it, they are total failures.
Really?
Turns out they just aren't very good at telling stories.
Yeah.
And so I think we need people like you who are great storytellers to be able to take the stories of people that are having and retell them in a way that becomes so compelling, which is what the Ted Danson show did. It's what Landman is doing. There's so much opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, this is a complex population, and they do have a lot of stories, and they've got a lot of comorbidities and a lot of chronic disease management. But in senior living, that's not the lead story, right? In a hospital, it's a lead story. In the post acute, it's the lead story that you are your diagnosis. But in senior living, it's so important to figure out how you can tap into those stories. And honestly, like once going way back, once I realized like we're only good as the day that we're in, and how do we lift each other up? The only way you do that is if you deeply know the people around you. And also, by the way, the only way you're going to attract more people to come participate in your community, be it physical or just a bunch of people getting together to do something that I like, is that the people around you are deeply known. That's like a core principle of wanting to join up with a community of people and getting something out of it.
Yeah, yeah, and I absolutely agree. So in this particular bill, community that is right now where I'm recording this, they have a full bar. It opens at noon, goes until about 8 o'clock, and the staff member who toured me around said that by the time, if I were here at 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, it would be standing room only.
Yeah.
And what I've come to realize is that what's happening in these newer communities is they are creating things like that are more like real life, the lives that people lived before, and it vastly improves the appeal.
Yeah, it's a continuation of life. There's no, it's not the end point, right? Just because you move in, it's a continuation of life. And so I appreciate that.
So let's sort of flip the coin now.
Sure.
Where are the areas that you see the biggest opportunity for senior living to get better?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it has to do with the conversation we just had, which is, you're only as good as the moment that you're in. So that means you've got to deeply understand the people participating, and you have to provide opportunities not only for just in time kind of education and just in time growth. I love how, Dr. Bill Thomas clearly leans into, you're not done aging when you're not done growing when you move into a senior living environment. Let's grow together, how important that is. But then also on the flip side, we have a business to run. We made promises to people who are our customers. So our ability to understand what we promised to do for them, so what we plan to do, and then what we're actually doing for them at any given moment, I like to call this real-time service coordination, as it were, is such an important capability. So number one, do you have that comprehensive understanding of the people? And then number two, do you have a real-time understanding of the service delivery, both their expectation and what you're actually doing? And have you set your staff up to be able to go in and have a good experience when interacting with those residents?
Yeah. So I think that setting proper expectations is something that at least some operators are getting better at. I talked to an owner operator recently who told me that they don't use the term fine dining anymore in any of their material. And they do real high-end dining. But what they found is that they can't actually say that because it's not necessarily fine dining every single day, at least by the resident standard. And the truth of the matter is, you wouldn't want to go eat at Reese Chris Steakhouse every day, right? I mean, you'd be 400 pounds and, that's not real life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Like recognizing that you're facilitating a spectrum of life experiences for people who have chosen to make this their home. That's a really good point. The other thing I would add to this, it's always funny to me when thinking about how maybe there's some leadership teams sitting in boardrooms deciding what they need to be focused on, instead of actually getting out there and saying, actually, what do we need to be focused on, asking the entire community population that. It's kind of where business meets homemaking, and it's a hard thing, like that kind of breaks people's brains a little bit.
Yep. So here, I'm going to give you one more topic I'd love to have you tap on.
Yeah.
It's really near and dear to my heart. It's something I'm thinking a lot about. I've had several conversations about it for the last few weeks. So there seems to be sort of this debate in senior living as to whether we are a need-based product or a lifestyle product. I have a very strong feeling that we're a need-based product and that we'd be a better industry if we would just accept that even when we're talking about independent living, maybe even active 55, that people are making those choices because they're as they age, their lifestyle is changing and they're anticipating needs. So I'd love to see you have some conversations.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's on where our industry is on a very large spectrum, and it is much easier for us to facilitate a need-based product, especially when it comes to physical or cognitive support needs. That's a process. I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this, and then your services have been delivered. When you're talking about creating communities that attract people to create home within, you're talking about a very different side of the spectrum. And not everybody needs that. Some people just need a need-based product when they get to this point. Some people, unfortunately, because they've been a little left behind in society or by family or for whatever reason, they are seeking a community at this stage in life where these other need-based services are also kind of something that they need to have. So I think it's easier for the industry. So we see more need-based product. I personally am attracted to the kind of communal side of it. It's like I need more of this than just physical or cognitive need, or I want more of this in life. I could have said that better.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that appeals to me is that I had a deep need for community and human-to-human relationship.
Yeah.
And I realized that as I get older, for a variety of reasons, my circle naps, and it isn't true for everybody as they age, that once you get to sort of probably age 60 is where you start to see it happening, is your circle shift.
Yeah.
And going into senior living is an amazing way to let that circle expand again, to develop these deep player-like relationships that are so important to happiness. So I'm so excited about, you're telling stories and talking to people. And the one thing we actually haven't talked about a little bit
Sure.
is that we haven't actually talked about what it is you do um, in the industry.
Yeah, what do I do? I ask myself.
What do you do?
I ask myself that question every morning. Well, my on-stage pitch, if I was standing on stage with you right now, I'd say I'm the director of senior living solution design at PointClickCare. I have 26 total years in the industry, and half of that was spent in operations. I spent a good deal of my 12 years of operational experience with Erickson Senior Living, a little bit of time with Morningstar Senior Living out here in Colorado. But I joined PointClickCare 12 years ago, and really my job now is to really bookend the business. So I help product define and develop new solutions and services that PointClickCare is going to deliver out in the market, designed for senior living. And then I walk all the way through that process. And then on the other side of the conversation, I meet with customers and help us adopt our solutions in a way that helps them achieve whatever their strategic objective priorities are. So helping them digitize their workflows inside of the community for efficiency, for revenue, for better outcomes all around.
Terrific. Well, Murry, I am so excited to have you as part of the creator team at Senior Living at Foresight, powered by ProCare. And I can hardly wait to see what you come up with. We're all about making the lives of people who live and work in senior living better. I know that's a driver for you, and I have no doubt you'll have a profound impact on the industry, the people who live and work in the industry, as you do these interviews, you have these conversations.
Absolutely. Thank you, Steve, for the opportunity. And I got some surprises in store.